2024. I am Councillor Jeff Jones and I will be chairing the meeting today. Just to make you all aware, this meeting will be recorded. Can I welcome any member of the public and press to today's meeting? Can I kindly ask you to observe the meeting only and not to speak or participate? Please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Members, if you wish to speak or ask a question, please raise your electronic hand on Teams or physical and in person. I will now move to agenda item 1, Chair's announcements. I can confirm I have no announcements to make. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
I see no indication, Chair.
Thank you, Chloe. Agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes from the meeting held on the 13th of August 2024 are attached on pages 5 to 8 of the agenda pack for approval. Members, do you have any comments to make on the accuracy of these minutes? Please can I have a proposer and seconder to approve the minutes?
Councillor Davis, have you got your hand up? Did you wish to comment on the accuracy or are you proposing?
I approve the minutes.
I can't hear.
Yeah.
Councillor Jordan?
Happy to second, Chair.
Can you all hear us in the chamber? Just checking.
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear us. Can
Yes.
someone try speaking?
Hello?
Right, I can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Bear with us. We might have to just take a short pause while we try and fix the sound issues. Bear with us.
Justin, can you try and speak again, see if it works?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, apologies about that. I think the setting was on the wrong one, so we've rectified that now. So as the chair was saying, does anyone have any comments on the accuracy of the minutes? If not, could we please have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Davis, are you proposing?
Yes, I propose the minutes.
Thank you. And
Correct.
Councillor Jordan, seconding?
Happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I can confirm those minutes have been approved. Yeah. No.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is a request for site visits. Are there any members wishing to suggest a site visit on the application presented today or for any other matter? Please let me know if you wish to call for a site visit at any point in the meeting. Councillor Davis.
I'd like to propose a site visit, and the reason being, I know the location, but I'm not familiar with the site itself and the surroundings. And knowing the many issues my daughter's had and her neighbours regarding a gym nearby. And of course, this gym is proposed to be open 24 hours a day. So that's the reason why I would like to call a site visit, please. Diolch yn fawr.
We have had a proposal for a site visit. Before I ask for a seconder and proceed with the vote, are there any members who have any different views? Councillor Jordan?
Yeah, it's not a different view to what Councillor Davis has asked for, Chair. It's just, yeah, I would second a site visit.
Could Sorry, Chris. Before that, I'll go to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As members can see, we've obviously got a plan in there that identifies the site location. In the presentation, we've also got photographs of the site and surrounding area to identify what's around in the area. You will note the plan that I've got in the presentation and in the report shows the distances to the adjoining properties, and members should be aware there are no physical changes to the site at all. So this is purely a change of use of the existing building. So there's no additional development changes to the building, alterations to the car parking. So that everything that you will see in the photographs and everything that you see from the presentation is exactly what you would see on site should you go and undertake a site visit. Thank you, Chair.
Does anybody else have any other comments to make? Councillor Aubrey?
Hi, yes, I don't really feel like I need a site visit because I know the location.
We will now proceed with the vote. Councillor Davis has proposed the site visit. Could I have a seconder, please? Oh, Councillor Jordan, very second, sorry. Chloe, could you please read out the members of the planning committee who are present and how they wish to vote? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I'll go through the members who are present, and please could you just confirm if you are happy to have the site visit or not. So Councillor Aubrey.
Against the site visit.
Thank you. Councillor Davis has proposed the, so I'll skip Councillor Davis because she's proposed. Councillor Cathy James.
Against the site visit.
Thank you. Chair.
I'm against.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan seconded it, so I'll skip past Councillor Jordan as seconding the motion, and Councillor Mason.
Yeah, I don't think I need one, so I'm against the site visit.
Sorry, was that against the site visit?
Against the site visit,
Okay.
yes.
And Councillor Sarah Thomas.
I'll go for.
Oh, sorry, I can see that Councillor Dennis Keogh is now present. Councillor Keogh.
As we dealt with this application some years ago, it's before us again. I don't see the point of a site visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Just checking the attendance. Yep, that's everyone present. So Chair, confirm that the request for a site visit has fallen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Now we move on to Section A of the agenda, which is matters for decision. The only application before us today is application number P 2024-0257, Pure Gym Limited, Vale of Neath Retail Park. The report is set out on pages 9 to 28, and this application is recommended for approval. I would now like to ask the planning officer to take us through the report. Chris?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so this is planning application P 2024-0257. It's a change of use from Class A1 retail to Class D2 gymnasium at the site of the former Carpet Right Tops Tiles building, which was last used by Watt, which is a retail store at the Vale of Neath Retail Park. The applicant is for Pure Gym Limited. So this is the application site edged in red. You'll see it's an existing unit within an area of other similar uses. You'll see the roundabout at the top of the plan is the mini roundabout at the bottom of Pennyworth Hill, and the roundabout at the bottom of the plan is the one adjacent leading to the flyover into Neath Town Centre itself. So we've just got this aerial image to identify the site a bit more clearly. So you'll see Burger King at the bottom of the plan. The road between this site then and Halfords is the flyover leading into Neath towards the back of Morrison's. You've got the existing Halford store there identified, the application site there identified with the yellow star. Beyond that is Golwg Gamlas, which is the road into the existing site. And you've got Lidl there. So as the site comes in, as the road comes in, you branch left over the existing Lidl store and car park, and right to the proposed application site and the existing Halfords building. This is residential development then on the opposite side of Cadoxton Road, and the residential development then on the opposite side of the existing site access, which is just at a higher level than the existing Lidl store and car park. So this is a plan that's within the report itself. So this identifies the site location, but also provides you details in terms of the distances to properties. You'll see the average distances there between Burger King, Halfords, and the application site are anything between about 50 and 60 metres. And then you've got the distances then to those properties on Golwg Gamlas to the back of the application site, which is about 33 metres. So as the application is for a change of use only, there are no external changes to the building at all. Members be aware that sometimes advertisements require separate advertisement consent, and the applicants are aware of that, but there's no external changes proposed. So this is a photograph of the existing site facing towards the front of the building. You can see the existing car park in there within it. This is a view towards Cadoxton Road, and you'll see that existing tree and hedge line, and I'll point that out on a later image that will show you as well. Again, showing the front of the application site and the existing car parking. So this is the side and rear elevation of the unit. So you'll see the residential properties on the opposite side of the site access located there on the right-hand side of the plan. The image, and you'll see the road access coming in, and you can see obviously the difference in levels between the road, the site, the Cadoxton Road at the beyond this, and obviously the application site. You can see the property itself set at a lower level. Again, this shows the difference in level between the road and the existing building. And this is the existing street view that we're taking. So you can see the properties on the left-hand side of the residential properties and the opposite side of the site access. So that site access in front of you is the road driving into the site itself, where you would branch left to Lidl and right to the application site and the Halford store. The existing building, as you see, is identified by the yellow star, and you can see the roof of the building just through there, and you can see the existing tree and hedge line then that bounds the application site from Cadoxton Road. In terms of the planning application, we received one objection in relation to competition from other similar uses within the area. As members are aware, competition is not a planning reason or material consideration within planning. You will note from the responses we've had from various consultees, there's no highways objections. There's sufficient off-street car parking within the existing site to accommodate the proposed use. As has been pointed out by Councillor Davis in a request earlier, the applicant is seeking 24-hour use of the property. Members will note the planning conditions that we've proposed on pages 23 to 28 of the report, and also the amended wording on the amendment sheet. There are two noise conditions, 4 and 13, that actually set maximum noise limits for the site itself. Environmental Health considered that these would protect any residential amenity from any nuisance from the use of the property at all. There's also a condition 3, and that requires the applicants to submit a validation noise assessment within 4 weeks of opening, and to put any mitigation measures in within a set agreed period. And there's obviously further conditions on there in relation to condition 6, which is any justified noise complaints that we receive. So as far as Environmental Health are concerned, they consider those suite of conditions would provide appropriate controls to prevent any unacceptable impacts, and the noise information the applicants have already provided gives them comfort that these levels can be achieved acceptably. We're thereby recommending approval of the application. As stated, the conditions are set out on page 23 and 28 and on the amendment sheet provided. So our recommendation is approval subject to those conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. I will now ask the local ward members if they wish to come in at this point. Councillors Joe Hill and or Councillor Chris Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Would you want to speak first?
Councillor Hill.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak at this meeting. I'm here today to represent the residents of my ward who have great concerns about a 24-hour gym. A 24-hour gym could have a negative effect on the quality of life for local residents. Is this exactly what the community needs? There will be a greater adverse effect at night than the day because people tend to be more sensitive to noise at night as they are trying to sleep. The adverse effect can be greater simply because there is less background noise at night. There are no other businesses in the area operating 24-hour. Burger King closes at 12 and Lidl at 10. With Lidl's have conditions on their times on times of lorries making deliveries. The agent has commented that the number of users at night is low, so therefore it doesn't quantify the need for it to be 24-hour. They also state that CCTV is monitored at all times, but yet they have 362 gyms throughout the UK. Is this feasible to be looking at CCTV, throughout every gym? And I feel, isn't it better to address problems before rather than after? And what about soundproofing of the building? Can somebody quantify if there is soundproofing, please? Another thing, we already have problems with youngsters in Court Herbert gathering all times of the night. So I feel this would be, a place where if something was going on, that they're all going to be. And I don't see, it says in the report there's 121 parking spaces. There are not 121 parking spaces there. I've also spoken with the manager of Halfords and they have great concerns because they feel that they have no control over the parking, where they haven't got any allocated parking spaces for themselves. And is this going to have an effect on their business? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Could I bring in Councillor Chris Williams now, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in relation to this planning item as a County Councillor for the Brincove South area. In relation to my objections, I would like to express my concerns regarding the proposed 24-hour opening of this business premises near a residential area. Also, possible noise pollution concerns due to music being played at the gym. Furthermore, there will be increased traffic congestion on the main roundabout at Cardigston, as well on already as the roundabout is already busy at peak times. To conclude, I have concerns as well about the limited amount of parking spaces at this location, which could accommodate both gym users and customers from the Halford store opposite. Thank you for your time today. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Before I move on, I'd like to ask Chris if he has any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillors, for attending today and your comments. In relation to CCTV, this is obviously CCTV that they provide within the site itself. It's not that it's continually monitored on a 24-hour basis where they can react, but what it does is identify any issues of antisocial behaviour from their users. So my understanding is that everyone has a card, just as we access the buildings. They know who's at the building, who's entered the site at any one point. So if there's any issues in terms of antisocial behaviour, like any issues within the car park or within the building itself from people who aren't behaving as they should, they have their own procedures in which to deal with those people. And obviously you'll note the condition that we've got about any justified noise complaints and the actions that the applicants would have to do for that. In terms of the noise, the conditions that we've imposed don't just are for during the day. They are limits that put on for the 24-hour use, so they provide maximum limit. So this would ensure that any noise in the building would not exceed any background noise levels. Again, they've already undertaken noise assessments, and that's why we've got that additional condition not to rely on just potential noise impacts. They have to actually address the noise impacts when the site is actually operating. So that wording of the condition requires them to put a validation. So they have to do real-time noise assessments based on the operation of the site within the first 4 weeks, then provide that data to us. If there's any issues in there, they have to stop certain uses within the building. So no amplified music, no amplified speech. There's also conditions on there anyway that prevent them having classes that require those uses beyond 10 o'clock. So there's no classes overnight. So those limits would put in that if they can't achieve the levels that they're setting out that environment health require them to do, they've got to stop certain uses, come up with mitigation measures, implement them, and only when those are then have achieved the relevant levels can they then restart these uses with the amplified music. So I think in terms of controls on noise and disturbance from the actual use itself, environmental health officers are pretty sure that they can address that through that. So it's not, just to clarify, it's not like we're relying on the condition about justified noise complaints. They have to actually do real-time testing once the site is operational and submit that data for us to approve before they can operate fully. So I think that we've kind of got enough controls in there for that. What I will do now is I will pass over to Justin just to give a little bit on the comments made regarding car parking and the number of vehicles on the roundabout. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chair. And good morning, members. Just a couple of things. I want to thank Councillor Joe Hale and Councillor Chris Williams for their comments. Just to clarify on a couple of issues raised. In regards to the car parking for the site, there are 120 odd spaces, but 20 odd are not, or 21 are not used because the car parking spaces underneath the flyover, as I call it, going into Neath, are hatched out, and they do have a bollard in front of them. They've never, to date, or they've stopped using them for safety reasons, for cars reversing out when vehicles are coming from the Burger King. So they won't be used. And they also the applicant did an assessment, a car parking assessment for the development, and found that there's 100 spaces available. And having gone through a sustainable parking method to look at the location and looking at local transport, considered all of that, and referring to the parking standards for SPG, they only require 92 spaces for both Halfords and for the gym when it's in operation. So they've got more than enough car parking spaces, and we are more than satisfied as a highway development control section that they can facilitate and occupy the gym when it's in operation, because people who will be occupying the gym will be there for some time. When they go to a shop, they'll only be there much, much less in terms of time scale than what they would if they would be in the gym there. And also with the capacity on the roundabout and the gym itself, there was no requirement for a transport impact assessment or statement for this site, because the Grocery area does not meet the requirements under the technical advice note 18 provided by Welsh Government, and is basically our policy that we refer to in regards to requesting transport impact assessments, because they are trigger points within them where we can ask for them. And because of the Grocery area was significantly less, it did not meet the requirements to ask for it. In terms of the capacity on the roundabout and the use of the gym, there will be no impact. If anything, it'll probably be a slight betterment to what it currently is, because the commercial use is during the day and people would be there coming back and forth peak times to use that facility. Whereas if they spread the use of the gym and the membership over a longer period of time, then the car trips would also be used in that sort of context as well. So we are more than satisfied in highway development control that the applicant has met with the requirements both on the parking and also with regards to the capacity on the roundabout there. So I think that's it from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Councillor Zale and Councillor Williams. You'll have a chance to come back in at the end. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. I will now take questions from members of the committee. Members, do you have any questions to ask the officers? Councillor Keogh. Councillor Keogh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Statement I made earlier about site visit, and actually we dealt with this before. I think it's the same applicant who had a gymnasium down with the railway station. Is that right, Chris?
I'm not 100% sure.
I think it is. I won't mention the gentleman's name, but at that time, at that gym, I believe there were terrible noise problems, but mitigation was put in place. I think we shut him down at one stage, and then once he put the mitigation in place, then there wasn't a problem and the gym continued to operate. So I understand the concerns of the local councillors on noise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Chris?
Yes, Councillor Kerr. I think the one you're talking about is the Unit 9 gym in Neath, where we had complaints regarding noise. And yes, you are correct. It is a different applicant. It's a different proposal. But that was again in an industrial building with residential. There's a couple of residential properties in that area, but it is in a commercial area. And you're correct, is that mitigation measures were put in to result with the noise limits in terms of the maximum volume of the music and things that could be played in there, and that's resulted then in a reduction in the complaints and addressing the concerns that have been put forward by the residents who were complaining about that issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Sarah Thomas, please.
Thank you. I'm going to stay off camera because my internet's a bit touch and go today. I've got a question. So on page 15, it says that policy R3 is referenced. And I know that last time we talked about policy R3, it was said that it only applies explicitly to retail. I'm just wondering about the inconsistency, really. Could we have some clarity on that?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll bring Chris in on that. Thank you.
Yeah, this obviously relates to out-of-centre retail proposals. Obviously, the current use of the development is retail. I mean, in terms of this development and similar proposals you've had in the past, I think members may recall that we had an application for a gym in an existing employment site, and there are policies within the plan that protect those employment sites from alternative uses, because to retain it as employment land and employment buildings. Now, in this case, it's an out-of-centre. The current use of the land is considered to be out-of-centre retail proposals. Obviously, because it's an out-of-centre retail park, it doesn't have the protection that exists in centres. So we've got designated town, retail and district and local centres, and those are thereby protected in terms of our retail policy. So this wouldn't be protected. And I think one of the comments that was made to us was that this would obviously result in the loss of a retail unit, but then there's obviously no protection under those policies for this unit. And if we were going to be trying to attract retail uses, even if they were larger retail uses, we would be trying to encourage them into our town centres and our vacant units. So things like Marks and Spencer's in Neath and the Wilko store in the Abraham Shopping Centre, those are uses that we would try and encourage more retail uses in. So it's a reference to the policy that relates to the current uses of the site, which is out-of-centre retail.
Thank you. I've got one more question. So like others, I do have some concerns about the amplified sound. I feel that 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. is really quite early and late to be having amplified noise. Is it possible for us to put an amendment in to make it like 9 to 9 or something like that?
The limitations are based on obviously background noise levels as well. So in terms of that location, it's the view of the environmental health officers in discussion with ourselves that those are the limitations that we've put on would reduce any potential impact to an acceptable level. Now that, because what you've got to look at as well is the location of this property on quite a busy connecting highway into the town centre and beyond. So I think in terms of background noise levels, even during the evening, there's quite a lot of activity on the road. So what they have to look at is not like it's in a rural location where there's no noise at all during those hours. There's still noise happening, but we've also got those conditions that require those maximum limits as well. So whilst we're putting those conditions on because we think that is the biggest risk, it's still for the applicant to submit that application for the validation under condition 3 to prove that he can achieve it, which is why we're going to have that real-time testing. Now, if that real-time testing shows that they cannot achieve those levels, and that means they've got to amend the hours of when they can do certain things, that may well be a mitigation measure that they propose to put forward as part of that scheme. So I think at the moment we would have no justification to amend those hours, but under that condition, if they cannot achieve the levels to make it acceptable, alterations to hours or particular uses or even limitations on the volume of that music will all be part of that resubmission under condition 3.
And that will happen quickly, will it? So we're not going to be months down the line with residents.
The condition requires them to do that within 4 weeks of the first opening. But notwithstanding that, within those first 4 weeks, those maximum limitations in terms of condition 4 and 13 still have to be complied with. So it's like a belt and braces approach, really. Like a chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Rosalind Thomas, please. Oh, Rosalind Davis, apologies.
Okay. I note regarding noise that all has been mentioned is the actual music. Well, can I tell you that heavy gym equipment, especially in the night, makes a lot of noise as well. So that needs to be taken into consideration apart from noise from music.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Davis. Yes, I mean, that's why that real-time testing of what's actually happening within that first weeks is essential. And that is the discussion that we've had with the applicant. And obviously, if we had that retesting done prior to them actually opening, you would still get a kind of unnatural way of operating the site. So what we want to understand, and one of the officers was talking about a site that they had in Swansea where they had a gym underneath some flats, and a particular piece of equipment when they were allegedly they have big heavy ropes and they fling them around. I don't know, I've never been in a gym, so I wouldn't understand what these things are. But that particular piece of equipment was causing a problem. So what they did is the mitigation measures were that between certain hours, those bits of equipment were locked away and only the staff could open it. So that would all be looked at as part of that condition 3. And that would include all M&E plants or all like air conditioning units and plant and machinery, you know, the comings and goings of the staff and the members of the public using it, all pieces of equipment that we've been. So they would have to show how they've operated it in line with what their standard process would be. And then they would potentially look then at mitigation measures to be put in place, which could include certain uses not being undertaken at certain times to achieve the levels. But again, we've got those maximum limits that they still have to comply with. And there's that complaints procedure. So if at a later date they change equipment in there and that results in a noise complaint, then we can identify what it is. There's still a process to go through to address that. So I think we've got that suite of conditions that will control it from the day it opens until whenever they decide that they want to close.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Pardon? Councillor Keogh, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to reassure members, I'm going to say when I was talking about the previous application at Unit 9, we did have problems with noise there, and it was brought back before this committee. And in actual fact, the premises were shut down until such time as the mitigation was put in place, and then it was allowed to reopen and when it got to a satisfactory level. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Councillor Cure. Are there any other questions from members? No? No, okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rosalind Davis, please.
So at present, it's not on the cards to have it soundproofed, but could it be made an amendment that it would be soundproofed?
Chris?
As you point out, the applicant has undertaken noise assessments already. There is no external change to the building. They fit the building out internally, which is why we've got this condition on about the retesting. So as part of that, they may well be putting sound insulation in. But the key thing to remember here is that those conditions, 4 and 13, set the maximum limits that would ensure that the noise levels from this development 24 hours will not result in an impact that would have any impact on any adjoining properties, and that retesting in real time will identify what works may or may not need to be put in to achieve those levels. So it's those levels that are important. So there may well be noise insulation, you know, if they put a dance studio in, for example, or a class studio, it may well be that that is built like a box within the existing building, which has soundproofing so that any music that's played within that does not affect their sound levels. But the important thing to remember is we've got these maximum limits on which they have to achieve 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Thank you, Chris. Is that okay, Councillor Davis?
Diolch.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from members? It doesn't look like it. So before the recommendation, I would like to invite the local members, Councillor Joel and Councillor Chris Williams, to come back in.
Thank you.
Councillor Rale, thank you.
Chris, when you said that about the CCTV, but there is no CCTV outside, because that's one of the concerns Halfords have, that there is no, you know, CCTV in the car park.
No, it's the applicant's own way of monitoring the use of the building and their staff. So it's their CCTV. So their CCTV will identify. So if for example we had complaints that there was noise or activity going on there at 1 till 2 in the morning on a Sunday on a certain date, the applicants could identify through their login process of who's going in and out of that building and their own CCTV. Which members of their club or gym caused that problem, and they have their own process for dealing with that. Because obviously if we get any justified noise complaints, we can, and it's not just obviously planning control, there's other legislation in terms of statutory noise nuisance and other things that can be looked at. So if they get a justified complaint from ourselves that we're saying we need to investigate, they can look back in their CCTV to find out if there was particular members of their gym that were causing that problem. So it's not that there would be CCTV put up in the area, but it would be their CCTV that they put in to monitor their use.
Sorry, also Unit 9, residents are still complaining there about noise, so, you know, it hasn't gone away, is it?
The application now complies with all the noise levels. Members of the enforcement section, both in planning and environment health, have visited the site numerous times unannounced. They've stood at a complainant's property, and you cannot hear the gym from that area. There are lots of uses going on within that area where people are driving around and maybe playing music in their cars. But we are pretty sure that based on all the assessments that we've undertaken, that they're in full compliance with their planning conditions. They recently had applications in which to extend their hours based on the fact that they are in full compliance. They've got limiters on the audio equipment that they can play in there, so there's no way of physically increasing the noise. But even though intermittently we do get complaints, officers have not identified anything that's coming from the gym that's causing any problem that would justify any further action from planning or environmental health.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Rale.
Sorry, another one. Could I ask that for conditions on it not being 24-hour, that they close at say 10 till 6? please. Thank you.
I mean, as far as we're concerned, the operation of the gym for 24 hours and from environmental health view, the conditions that are imposed would ensure that it can operate 24 hours. That is the nature of the business that this company operates. I don't think that they would accept any condition that would restrict their hours beyond that, because this is the operation that they do. As long as they can comply with those conditions, as I said, that validation submission and condition 3, then there would be no justification for us to limit the hours. As pointed out to Councillor Davis, if it is impossible for them to achieve those levels, and that means that they've got to alter their opening hours, that may well be a mitigation measure that they would have to propose. But I would imagine that they would do other things rather than actually close between certain hours. But that may be a mitigation measure that they would have to do if they cannot achieve the levels. But based on the noise assessments that have been submitted and the information that we have, environmental health officers are pretty sure that they can comply with the limits that we've imposed.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Councillor Vale. Sorry, I'll move on to Councillor Chris Williams out of Summer only.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I have no further questions, but the concerns I have are justified into what I spoke about. And but thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Now moving on to the recommendation, which starts on page 22 of the report. And again, this application is stated as for approval. Could I have a proposer and a seconder to consider the recommendation?
Councillor Cathy James, are you proposing to consider the recommendation?
Yes, happy to propose.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Ridley-Mason.
I've already moved it, Chair.
Second, Chair.
Okay, there we are. So we've had a proposer and seconder to consider the recommendation.
Thank you, Chloe. Chloe, could you please ask each member if they have been present for the whole of this item and now they wish to vote? And could you confirm the decision, please?
Thank you, Chair. So Councillor Howard Aubrey.
Yes, I've been present and I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Rosalind Davis.
I have been present for the whole item and reluctantly I approve.
Councillor Cathy James.
I've been present for the whole item and I support the recommendation.
Chair.
I have been present through the rule process and I vote for the recommendation.
Councillor Carl Jordan.
I've been present for this item and approve.
Councillor Dennis Keogh.
I've been present for this item and I approve.
Councillor Ridley-Mason.
I've been present for the whole item and I follow the recommendation.
And Councillor Sarah Thomas.
I have been present for the whole item. I will say my internet did freeze once or twice, but I don't think I missed anything important. I do support the recommendation.
Okay, thank you all. I can confirm that application has been approved.
Thank you. Now we move on to section B of the agenda, which is matters for information. Agenda items 6 and 7 detail the appeals received and delegated decisions from the timeframe indicated in the circulated report. As Chair, I can confirm that we note the information contained within this report. Agenda item 8 is urgent items. I can confirm we have no urgent items today. I'd like to transfer to Chris for a second, please.
Just before we close the meeting, I just want to bring to the committee members' attention that following the presentation that Tata gave to all members a couple of weeks ago, they've now gone formally to PAC. So they think they went at the end of last week to their public consultation exercise. So what I will try and do, in fact, I might have done it, but I can't remember. But if I haven't, I will do it. I will send out a link to the PAC for all members. Just obviously to be aware as members of any members of planning committee is not to obviously prejudice or predetermine anything in terms of the process. But if you wanted to have a look at the application and you had any factual questions during the process that you wanted to, we're always here for you to ask any questions. And as I said, we'll send that link out to all members. You've all got a copy. There's quite a lot there, so it'll keep you busy for a while. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you for that, Chris. Well, so there are no further items, so that ends the business for today. Thank you all for it.